Thank you for listening to the Speaking Out on Sex Abuse podcast with hosts Clara and Jimmy Hinton. If you're new to the podcast, please look us up on your favorite podcast app, subscribe, like, and share so that you never miss an episode. If you'd like to further support us, visit patreon.com/speakingout and check out the different rewards. You'll find exclusive rewards if you sign up as a patron of the podcast. Thank you for your support, and let's get into the show. Welcome to this week's podcast. Thank you again to our patrons who make this podcast possible. You guys are awesome, and we were just talking last week, and we didn't really fully develop this idea, but we are very most likely going to be shifting one of the tiers from the $25 a month and up. All of those people will get an added reward where we're doing this series on trainings. Yes. We're going to do live Zoom sessions once a month and go through trainings for those patrons. So if you want to sign up and you want to do that, I am not going to make those trainings public because everything that we do on Patreon, everything that happens in Patreon stays in Patreon.
Jimmy, which tier would they have to sign up for?
It'd be the 25. Yeah, okay. 25 and up. Right. And I will start making those changes probably within the week. So I would say probably starting in October, we'll make a big announcement. And if you guys want to jump on that, I would recommend doing that because I actually currently do not do trainings. I used to do trainings nonstop until COVID happened. Right. And they are honestly one of a kind. I developed all of my own trainings. So it's not the typical abuse training. And a lot of it is like personal stories intermixed with that. So and
the trainings, a lot of they're incredible.
Deep
really
research too.
Yes.
So of course I tie in theology with science and then experience and kind of blend those all together. Yeah. And anyway, I'm excited about it. I think it'll be a really good reward and very useful. Definitely useful. And as a Patreon, you can go back and you can watch replays as many times as you want. So,
right.
And
I think it's going to be incredible.
We've given our patrons documents, and we share all kinds of things straight out of my Google Drive. And so again, that's only accessible to people who are our patrons. Right. So, one of the benefits of being a patron is we're kind of close.
You get extra info for sure.
So, anyway, I'm excited about that. So, last week we talked about the 5 components of a solid training.
Right.
What we thought were probably the 5 best components. One of those was that we needed to train adults and children equally if we're going to combat abuse.
Right.
What was interesting was right after we stopped recording, we find this article. And I posted it on my Facebook page. And here's the article. It's from The Insider. I'm reading the title here. A Rhode Island teacher is on leave after a group of middle school boys who thought he was a quote-unquote creep used a quote-unquote pedo database to keep track of how he interacted with girls in their class. A little bit of a wordy title.
But it sure does explain what was going on.
It does. And we were talking about locker room talk and how, kids, it's not necessarily, maybe that wasn't the right terminology in hindsight. Maybe it's just raw talk. There is certainly crude talk that happens with kids. Unfortunately, it happens.
Right or wrong, I was going to say, Jimmy, in the world in which we live, right or wrong, it happens because, let's face it, people are normal, and normal is open to everything under the sun. Yeah. So there's going to be some crude talk from.
And at that age too, they're in this weird developmental stage, and
very inquisitive, the whole thing.
The point is not the crude talk, but the point is that kids talk.
They sure do.
And if they see things that are off, they're going to talk with each other.
You know, kids are insightful, extremely insightful. They study adults just like we think we're studying teenage behavior. We're way off base with that. Kids are very insightful.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And they can spot a fake a mile away.
Yep. And so that's exactly what happened here. I'll read a couple paragraphs because this is just, I mean, it's so stinking powerful. And we're doing this podcast, one, just to put this on your radar. If you didn't see it, if you haven't heard of this article or this story, this article is from September 11th. So this is, I mean, very recent, just a few days ago. You'll always hear about how the adults this, the adults that, and then, you know, they have to be the ones in charge. They have to be the ones that go through the training. They have to be the ones to step up to the plate, on and on and on. And then kids are typically, whether we mean to or not, kids are typically trashed. Like, oh, look at this generation. And I hear people say this all the time now. They're like, oh, I would hate to bring a kid into the world now. My response is, why?
I don't like hearing that.
Bring a kid into the world and teach your kid to do right.
Right.
The world is not.
Yes.
I mean, the world is what you make it out to be. You know. Sure, it's there's darkness and there's crime and there's all that stuff, but it's been since the beginning of time.
I was going to say, I have news for everybody. It's been for time evermore.
Yeah.
Yes.
So teach your kids like these parents did, and I've got to give kudos to the parents. This article didn't mention the parents.
Wonderful.
I'm going to mention the parents of these kids. Kudos to you for raising these boys to do right.
Exactly right.
I mean, this is phenomenal.
Awesome job. Yes.
So I'll read a couple paragraphs here, and then I'll link to this article in the description. A group of Rhode Island middle schoolers thought their teacher was a creep, so they kept a log of what they considered inappropriate interactions between him and girls in their class. The teacher is now said to be on administrative leave and under investigation. A new report in the Boston Globe indicates the group of 8 Davisville middle school boys in North Kingstown started the log, which they dubbed a pedo database. After watching their teacher oogle at girls in their class, give them nicknames like Sweetheart and Sunshine, and ask them to dance for him. The Globe interviewed one of the boys, now a 15-year-old high school student, who told the publication that when the group tried reporting the situation, adults didn't take students seriously. The teacher himself had apparently even commented that he'd received complaints for decades without any action being taken against him, according to the Globe. He was bragging about it.
Of course.
This went on. There were complaints for decades.
Typically how it works. Think about it.
I mean, this is the kind of stuff.
Excuse me.
That we've talked about before, because Granny here spent time on a school board, and she got to see the behind the scenes.
15 years on a school board teaches you a lot.
All the cover-ups and, you know.
There are major cover-ups of things like this, major sitting aside of what students bring to the board or to teachers or to the guidance counselor. I saw it. I lived through it. I didn't agree with it. It's horrendous.
And here's a prime example that here we are in 2022. Right. This isn't an article from 1987. This is this year. This is this month. This is still happening.
Away. Right.
Kids reporting it over and over again for decades. They've been
you know who the teacher was that I mentioned that all the girls said was a creepy guy who always looked down their shirts. That was talked about at the school board level and just brushed off. Why? Because it was hard to get good teachers in his category. And he was a good teacher.
He was a good teacher. He was a great I had him. He was a great teacher.
He was an excellent teacher. And they didn't want to lose that teacher. So it was just brushed off as, that's not so, you know. And
it was so. I witnessed it.
He would rub their shoulders and stand behind them. And they said, this guy's creepy. It had been reported for many years. But same thing, but nothing was done, sadly.
So here, going on, the teen told the Globe that the teacher's interactions with female students created uncomfortable situations. Mm-hmm. And then this is quoting the boy. Sometimes they'd laugh. Sometimes they'd just kind of sit there awkwardly. Even the ones that said he was creepy laughed because they were obviously not trying to tick him off or anything. So they're just fake laughing, awkwardly laughing. This is a middle school boy.
Mm-hmm.
Who,
Isn't that
you said
something?
they're perceptive.
Yeah. Yes,
they
are.
get it.
Very,
they understand.
Very insightful.
That's not a real laugh. She's
very
uncomfortable.
Insightful kids. They
did something about it. And I think this is awesome.
They took action.
This was, again, this was so recent. The group decided in January of 2021, so that was just last year, to keep written records on Discord to gather evidence of teachers' behaviors, according to the Globe. So Discord is it's a platform, and actually, it's linked with Patreon, and I'm too dumb to figure out Discord. I use Discord with the Patreon that I pay for. So I'm a patron of somebody else's the work that he puts YouTube videos out, but he uses Discord, and I use Discord every day as a user.
Okay,
but to get on the administrative side, I just can't figure it out. So, but anyway, it's a great platform. But these kids get on Discord, and they're
again, these
and
kids
they're documenting it in real time. He's rubbing her shoulders. He's
smart, and they are very good with technology also, which is something we need to remember. You want something figured out, go to a young kid. They'll figure it out, the technology. Yeah. That's awesome what they did.
And the cool thing about Discord, it's like a chat board. Everything is time-stamped. So they're typing what the teacher's doing and what he's saying in real time as it's happening. Yes. And they're publishing this. Yeah. This is publicly
published.
They were
smart.
They were brilliant.
They were very smart.
But listen to what's on this boy's mind. The boy told the Globe he felt bad for the girls, quote, because sometimes it just seems like it was a humiliating thing. Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Insightful again. And he's being taught, by the way, by someone about respecting girls.
100%.
Yeah, he really
What
is.
a cool kid. Like,
right.
This makes me want to interview this kid, find this kid, and the whole group of boys.
That's incredibly
and interview
wonderful.
them and just hear from these boys. They're heroes.
They are. They really are.
They're not going to get the credit that they deserve.
Well, they are examples, I'll tell you what, of how this should work.
Absolutely. I'm just going to keep reading little excerpts from this article. This is all, it's just a gold mine. He'd play a song. This is another quote. He'd play a song, and he'd make one of them, that is one of the girls, get up and dance, the student added. In April of this year, the teacher was escorted out of school and placed on leave. The interim superintendent said an investigation was ongoing into allegations the teacher stalked a pre-middle school girl he coached and had been inappropriate with other girls, the Globe reported. Here's the thing. I hope that this school is investigated. I hope.
As they should be.
That charges are brought against them.
For dismissing the students going to them with this information. Yes.
So here's something important. Once the public was asked to come forward with the information, one of the middle school boys told his mother about the Discord channel, and they contacted this investigator. The log has since been shared with the local U.S. Attorney's Office, the Rhode Island Department of Children, Youth and Families, the State Education Department, and a lawyer conducting an internal investigation for the school. There we go. So there is an internal investigation. Bravo, bravo for these boys.
Yeah.
This school, I'm telling you, they're going to be in hot water.
They should be.
At a bare minimum, there's going to be a massive lawsuit.
They should. Yeah, it should happen.
Yeah.
Believe me, until these places feel some kind of a money crunch, Jimmy, that seems to get people's attention. When the crunch comes, when you pinch
for
hard,
a little bit. But then they'll
for
go
a
right
little
back to
bit,
it again.
but
Old habits are
I
hard
have
to
to
break.
think that people are waking up a bit. Sorry, I just kicked Jimmy's computer cords all
That's
over
all
the
right.
place. I can't sit
We'll
still
ban you
today.
from this
I'm just
studio.
wiggling all over here. I want to be outside so bad.
Oh,
I
I
just
know. It's
really do.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous day here today, people.
Well,
Really
I mean,
is.
I think there are a couple points here that are worth making. Number one, the point that we already made is that kids have to be trained, and these kids clearly, I think clearly, these kids were
Somebody,
trained
yeah,
how to
somebody did.
respect
Yeah,
girls,
right. You
how to
got it.
respect their peers.
You got it. Why else would they know? Why would they? How would they know these girls are laughing? But it's because they're feeling embarrassed, uncomfortable. I mean, think about the insight for a teenager, a young teenager to have. That's pretty
And to do
incredible.
something about
And
it.
to do
And
something
I
about
think,
it. Yeah.
and that could be just natural that these boys are intuitive and that they're protective, and that's certainly possible. But my best guess is that these families have conversations about this at
That's what I
home,
would
and these
think,
boys are
Jimmy.
taught
That's what I would think
they're
too.
taught how to be gentlemen.
Right. Yep.
I mean,
And how to look out for others in
yeah,
general. Just how to look out
yeah,
for the, you know, sake of others.
yeah. So I think that's point number one. We've got to train our kids. There's not a reason in the world why we're not having assemblies at school, why we're not having people come in and teach peers how to treat peer to peer with dignity and respect. Now, I know we have like anti-bullying stuff, and a lot of that's really good. I have friends who do assemblies, and Joe Scorsone, I just saw he's posting. He does anti-bullying and suicide prevention. He's a musician, a very gifted musician. He's on a tour right now with some schools. There are people
And
out there
that's
who are doing
good.
incredible
That's
work.
super.
So
Yep.
I don't want to make it sound like it doesn't exist, but we should have every single school in the United States of America
Agreed.
constantly teaching kids how to
Agreed.
behave like
Right.
this,
Right.
because kids will do it.
They will do it. And what did we say last week about that? When people start acting like these kids did, you talk about squirmy abusers that
Yep.
they're not going to know who's looking, who's
Uh-huh.
not looking. These kids see things we adults often do not see.
Yes.
They really do. Why? Because their minds are on that level of the others. We might not have noticed that those girls were uncomfortable, but
And
those kids did.
the other thing too is how many adults were in that room. One, that adult happened to
Right,
be the abuser.
right.
So,
Exactly
if
right.
if we're relying on training as adults to catch this kind of stuff, we are
No,
missing
right.
three
That's a
quarters of the
great,
three quarters of
great,
the
great
pie.
point,
Right
Jimmy.
off the bat, we're missing.
Great point. There was no other adult around to witness what those
So
students
so
witnessed.
that's a great question.
Right.
That's a question that I would ask schools. If you're training your staff on how to spot abuse and how to report it, what good is it in those situations,
Right.
which is incredibly common?
Because they're
What
in
good
the
is it?
classroom alone with all the
Exactly
kids.
right.
Yeah,
We've got to train the kids.
we do.
So that's the first point. The second point is that I think that we need to really focus on the encouragement that it's not lost on this generation, that we're not going to have abuse. Two things: one, we're not going to have it eradicated. It's just abuse is always going to be here. But two, if this is a generation of kids growing up, I'm hopeful.
I am too.
I'm excited.
I just really, I am anyway excited because I see so many young, wonderful youth right now with morals that they are just respectful. I see it happening before our eyes, and I just wish, like you said, we could give credit where credit is due. Applaud those parents who are doing a great job with their kids in a world that's very full of turmoil and all kinds of unexpected twists and turns. But of students like these students who had the courage to act on what they saw. It takes a lot of courage to do that. They tried reporting to the school, got nowhere, so they took things into their hands.
Which is the third point. You do not have to channel everything through leaders.
Right. There
We've
you go.
got to break this narrative that abusive leaders control, where it's this authoritarian leadership that says you have to go through the leadership, or you sit down and you shut your little mouth. And, churches do it, schools do it.
You got it.
All kinds of youth serving organizations do it, camps do it. This is what the leaders decide, and don't you dare go behind our backs.
You've been preaching this for months now, and these kids are a prime example.
They went right around the leaders. They're fine.
Prime
you guys
example.
Don't want to do something about it? We will.
Yep. They took it into
Brilliant.
their,
I love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
It is.
And this is a question that I get asked a lot by people. There are a lot of people at churches especially ask me, what can I do? I went and I talked to my leadership, and I said, there's this person, he's a threat, he's creeping on kids, or he's creeping on adults. We're seeing things that make us really uncomfortable, or he's doing things to me that makes me really uncomfortable. And the leadership will shut them down, and they'll say, well, this is a place where all are welcome, and
we have our committee that watches out for...
Exactly right.
Right.
And so their question to me is, what can we do about it? Because we were shut down by the leadership. My answer is, so what? Go around them.
Right.
Go around the leadership.
Yes.
Start a Discord channel.
I love that. I got to check that out, by the way.
I think it's so brilliant. I love it.
Anything about this Discord.
I do talk about networking, and I've talked about this before. Anna Salter talks about it in her book, about how it's so important to network with other parents and gather information. And no, that is not gossip. What these kids did was not gossip.
This was great what they did. Yeah.
They were documenting in real time facts.
Right. I was just going to say they had what the police call, we need hard, cold facts.
And there it is.
They had it. Right. They
So
did.
this is not gossip. Do like these kids did and state the facts in real time. And that's what I love about the Discord. And you don't have to use Discord. You can use a pencil and a piece of paper.
Right.
You can document, but I tell people, put timestamps, put dates, put your really initials beside it.
Yeah, that's
and
important.
keep a notebook.
Right.
And talk to other people like these kids did. They talked to each other.
Yeah. They obviously then went to parents too at some point.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, they're documenting, and apparently several of these boys, I'm guessing, were administrators of that Discord channel. And so they're all kind of typing in real time. I think that's brilliant. This is so stinking brilliant.
It is. I could tell you're excited about this.
I am.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic on so many different levels, because it puts ownership on peers and on non-leaders and on young middle school kids, and it just shows there is no age. Like, I've heard people say that before, and they're like, how dare you put the burden of reporting on a kid? Why not?
Right. They acted in such a great way.
I'm not saying a victim should report their own abuse, but these boys weren't victims.
They took away so much power from that abuser, by the way.
And probably put him in jail.
Yeah, and got him out of that classroom.
Hopefully a long time.
Yes, hopefully forever.
Definitely they got an investigation.
They got him out.
going.
Oh, they sure do.
And actually, too, because there's one into the school
too, which it should be.
So, this is the kind of stuff that, I don't know, it does. I mean, excited maybe isn't the right word, but I kind of am excited. I think this is fantastic.
It's encouraging. And I think in this day and age, we need to grab all the encouragement that we can to bolster us up, because this work is not very encouraging on most days.
No.
It gets very discouraging. But this was powerful. This was big. I think we've been living off of this article for a while since it came out, and just rehashing through our heads, man, that's great what these kids did.
Yeah.
How did they know how to do it? I would love, I wish there was a way of doing some follow-up with them.
Oh, it'd be so great.
Yeah.
And I'd love to interview their parents.
Right.
I would love to
Yeah.
have a follow-up episode.
Did they
Because-
have any training? If so, what kind? Or did parents talk to them at home? What did they talk about? Did they use a curriculum? What, what happened to get these kids to do what they did?
Yeah. And it took courage to do what they did.
Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of guts.
And we know.
Yeah, it does. It takes a lot of guts.
It's not fun to report.
No. Well, they had no idea what would happen to them.
And with these kids being students of this teacher,
right,
that made it 10 times worse.
Exactly.
He had
right.
a lot of power and control over
did,
them.
yes.
I mean, he was in control of their grades, and so in a very big way.
Obviously, they were in the classroom watching things other than the math book or whatever course he was teaching. And yeah, you're right. It took guts.
It did.
A lot of guts.
I mean, this is a model of what kids can and should be doing every single day.
I love your idea, Jimmy, of getting the assemblies into the schools also, because once you broadcast that training, that information, then it's no longer falling on virgin ears, so to speak. Then you've got the message out. The abuser is not going to like that at all. And let's face it, in an assembly, there is bound to be somebody who's breaking the law statistically, and 1 out of 4 students has been abused who can potentially blow the whistle on their abuser. So think about what could happen just in one assembly. What if we had these expert trainings, like you said, in every school? Think of the impact that would have.
And I would love like a collaboration where somebody in law enforcement also joins in that conversation and says, here are the things that we need from an investigative standpoint.
Right.
Like, this is what valid evidence is.
Right.
And so if you're able to record, these are the kinds of things that we're looking for.
As you
That'd be
know,
fantastic.
if you do a slip up of any kind, that whole case
It's inadmissible.
could be knocked out of the ballpark, So you're right. Law enforcement would have to be involved in some way.
But there's so much that we can do, and we've got to stop giving power into the hands of abusers and leaders.
Yep. Yes.
This school, man, I really, really hope that whatever the outcome of this investigation is, I hope there are criminal charges against people
whoever shut
who
these kids down should get in major trouble, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's illegal for a mandated reporter not to report abuse.
Wow.
And clearly they did it.
Right.
Or at least allegedly. The investigation will find that out.
I'll be most curious to do the follow-up with this.
But anyway, we just wanted to encourage you with that because I thought that was really crazy timing that literally right after we stopped recording that, we find this article. And I was like, holy cow. Here's an example of why kids need to be trained.
And if any of you have ideas, put the messages under the video. When Jimmy posts those, when I share them, put your thoughts down. We love to read those. Those thoughts don't go unread. Please, and share these videos.
Yeah, we're not the best at responding to comments, but we do read them.
No, but everything is read.
Yeah.
Read and taking, not taken for granted. We do read everything and discuss it most often.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
please let us hear from you that way.
Yeah. So let's keep taking power away from these nonsensical abusers. We can do it. We can do it, guys. All right. Well, thank you for tuning into this episode. And don't forget, visit patreon.com/speakingout. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next episode.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode. A special thank you to our patrons who make this podcast possible. Please help us get the word out by searching for the Speaking Out on Sex Abuse podcast in your favorite podcast app. Be sure to hit subscribe and rate the show. Please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron and check out the rewards our patrons receive.